Top 7 movies that were banned around the world. Religion, politics, sexual content, violence, these are the most common themes among films that are banned from release. Hollywood has churned out plenty of controversial movies in the past century. Some have become heralded as cinematic masterpieces, while others remain tied to their past infamy. But in some countries, a problematic movie could be subject to a nationwide ban. While many of these prohibitive measures have been reversed years after the fact, it's still fascinating to learn why a certain movie became illegal in another region. Whether it was due to violence, explicit content, or negative depictions of one's homeland, these movies were pulled from at least one foreign nation. Here are 10 movies that were once banned in countries around the world. A Clockwork Orange is a novel written by Anthony Burgess, published in 1962. Set in a dismal dystopian England, it is the first-person account of a juvenile delinquent who undergoes state-sponsored psychological rehabilitation for his aberrant behavior. The novel satirizes extreme political systems that are based on opposing models of the perfectibility or incorrigibility of humanity. Written in a futuristic slang vocabulary invented by Burgess, in part by adaptation of Russian words, it was his most original and best-known work. The novel opens in a totalitarian society where violent youths abound. Alex, the protagonist, has a passion for classical music and is a member of a vicious teen gang. He and his friends engage in drug-fueled orgies, milk spiked with narcotics as the drug of choice, and their random acts of brutality, particularly against defenseless people, are detailed with enjoyment in Burgess's made-up slang, nadsat. At one point the group breaks into a cottage, beating a young writer and gang-raping his wife, who later dies. When an attempted robbery goes awry and Alex murders an elderly woman, he is sentenced to 14 years in prison. Infamous for its presentation of violence, Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange, adapted from Anthony Burgess's book of the same name, features some of filmmakers' most well-known and highly regarded scenes. Due to its graphic depictions of rape and violence, the film was banned in countries including Ireland and Singapore for over 30 years. Apocalypse Now, 1979. Apocalypse Now, 1979, is producer-director Francis Ford Coppola's visually beautiful, groundbreaking masterpiece with surrealistic and symbolic sequences detailing the confusion, violence, fear, and nightmarish madness of the Vietnam War. It is a novel by Joseph Conrad about a European named Kurtz who penetrated to the farthest reaches of the Congo and established himself like a god. A boat sets out to find him, and on the journey the narrator gradually loses confidence in orderly civilization. He is oppressed by the great weight of the jungle all around him, a pitiless Darwinian testing ground in which each living thing tries every day not to be eaten. Francis Ford Coppola has one of the most impressive careers of all Hollywood directors. The Godfather Parts 1 and 2 are regularly cited atop best of lists, with Apocalypse Now featuring Somewhere Nearby, too. The latter, however, also came with controversy. It was banned in South Korea due to its anti-war theme, while others have widely debated whether or not it is actually an anti-war or pro-war film. Either way, it is widely regarded as the best film about Vietnam, and generally considered one of the best war films ever made. Zoolander 2001. Ben Stiller's third directorial feature, Zoolander 2001, makes an even larger shift towards straight-up comedy. His cynical touches of social commentary remain, but the core narrative is much more exaggerated and deliberately silly than anything undertaken in The Cable Guy, 1996. The largest influence here is the lucrative Austin Powers films driven by star Mike Myers and director Jay Roach, catchphrases, outlandish characters, and an approach to narrative bordering on sketch comedy. Here Stiller himself plays Derek Zoolander, world-famous male model and the subject of a Manchurian Candidate-styled plot to assassinate the Malaysian Prime Minister. Manipulated by fashion design legend Jacobum Mugatu, Will Ferrell, but aided by fellow model Hansel, Owen Wilson, and journalist Matilda Jeffries, Christine Taylor, Zoolander has mere days to uncover the conspiracy before Mugatu's brainwashing will turn him into a murderer. Of Stiller's 3 directorial features reviewed so far, this is far and away the least ambitious. Its scattershot approach to comedy results in as many misses as hits, and while some jokes fail to land, there is always another attempt running straight after it. Its September 2001 American release, a little over 2 weeks after the 9/11 terrorist attacks that shook the USA, arguably gave it an audience a little amenable to distraction and laughs than perhaps the film deserves. It is funny, and brings a level of broad appeal, but when lined up against Austin Powers it does feel underwhelming by comparison. The film seems a particularly family-oriented affair, with Stiller not only taking a lead role in one of his films for the first time but also casting his real-life wife Christine Taylor as female lead Matilda and his own father Jerry Stiller as Zoolander's agent Maury Ballstein. Add in close collaborator and friend Owen Wilson, whom Stiller directed in The Cable Guy and TV pilot Heat Vision and Jack, and it all felt a little too much like nepotism at time. It led some contemporary critics label the film a vanity project, which is a pity, since it is hardly Stiller's fault that he was born into, married, and befriended a pretty impressive depth of talent. According to The Guardian, the Malaysian Home Affairs Ministry Film Censorship Board described the film as definitely unsuitable for audiences. In Iran, Zoolander was banned for its perceived support of gay rights. The Blue Kite 1993, in a small room on a courtyard off Dry Well Lane in Beijing, a marriage is celebrated and a child is born. The people of the courtyard all know one another, and share joys and sorrows and food. They are ordinary, unsophisticated citizens. When a loudspeaker announces the death of Stalin, one of them asks, "Who is this Stalin person?" Into their lives during the next 25 years will come wave after wave of political hysteria, rendering all of their hopes and plans meaningless. The Blue Kite, 1993, is nothing less than the attempt to show what it was like to live in times of ideological madness. The boy is called Titu. The name translates as Iron Head. His mother is a teacher, his father is a librarian, and his childhood memories include playmates and family gatherings and the portentous comings and goings of an uncle and his girlfriend who have both joined the army. He remembers especially a blue kite that he treasures, and which is caught in a tree, and how his father promises to give him a new one. The representations of Mao's communist regime led the Blue Kite to be banned from release in mainland China, and a 10-year film-making ban was placed on director Zhuangzhuang Tian. The film, however, won a number of awards on the international film circuit upon its release. It is told from the perspective of a young boy growing up in Beijing during the 1950s and 60s, demonstrating real stories of life in the city during the Cultural Revolution, and exploring hidden truths from inside the mainland. Brokeback Mountain, 2005. Their story begins in Wyoming in 1963, when Ennis, Heath Ledger, and Jake Gyllenhaal, are about 19 years old and get a job tending sheep on a mountainside. Ennis is a boy of so few words he can barely open his mouth to release them. He learned to be guarded and fearful long before he knew what he feared. Jack, who has done some rodeo riding, is a little more outgoing. After some days have passed on the mountain and some whiskey has been drunk, they suddenly and almost violently have sex. "This is a one-shot thing we got going on here," Ennis says the next day. Jack agrees. But it's not. When the summer is over, they part laconically. "I guess I'll see ya around, huh?" Their boss Randy Quaid tells Jack he doesn't want him back next summer. "You guys sure found a way to make the time pass up there. You weren't getting paid to let the dogs guard the sheep while you stemmed the rows." Despite losing the Academy Award for Best Picture the year it was released, Brokeback Mountain is still a critically acclaimed love story. It stars Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal as a pair of cowboys who fall into a complicated romantic relationship while herding sheep in Wyoming. While Brokeback Mountain is celebrated as a hallmark of queer cinema in America, it was banned in the United Arab Emirates due to its depiction of a relationship between two men. And it didn't receive a theatrical release in China at all. Battle Royale 2000. One cannot question the legacy of Kenji Fukasaku. Although internationally most known for his Yakuza films, he is one of those filmmakers who cannot be placed into a particular preferred genre. In this way he is a precursor to modern directors with widely ranged filmography, e.g., Sono and Miike. His 2000 release, a controversial adaptation of an equally controversial novel by Kushun Takami, has become a cult classic and is considered one of his late masterpieces. In multiple later films, literature and most frequently in the gaming industry, Battle Royale is a major influence. In the near future, a devastating recession turns Japan into a turbulent nation. As a large number of adults become unemployed, juvenile delinquency reaches its peak. A frustrated authoritarian government passes the BR Act to curb the youth. Through the act, a random class is taken away to an uninhabited island, where they are instructed to kill each other off, until only one survives. In the narrative of the film, Class 3B becomes the victim of the randomization, and are explained by soldiers, a video instructor and an ex-teacher on the rules of the game. Battle Royale often garners comparison to The Hunger Games 2008, which was also banned on similar grounds. The film follows a group of ninth-grade Japanese students who are sent to an island where they must kill each other until the final survivor is declared winner. While the violence can be quite dramatic at times, there is a dark humor throughout the film, which has helped it to gain a cult status and, despite being banned in several countries, including Germany, where it is today, Battle Royale has become one of Japan's most successful films. Monty Python's Life of Brian, 1979. The problem of mistaken identity is often mined for comedy, but only one comedy, Monty Python's Life of Brian, has intertwined the problem with the story of Jesus Christ. That no one else has tried something similar is a testament to Monty Python's audacity, or their brilliance, or perhaps both. Arguably the high water mark of the boys' singular body of work, Life of Brian is a tenacious critique of conformity clad in the flowing robes and hairdos of a biblical epic. Shot by Peter Bizio, BSC, The Truman Show, Mississippi Burning, who worked behind the scenes with Two Pythons, director Terry Jones and production designer Terry Gilliam, Life of Brian charts the short, mostly happy life of Brian Cohen. Graham Chapman, who is born in a manger in Bethlehem on a significant date to a woman, Terry Jones, who has not been a virgin for some time, and is crucified 30-odd years later for participating in an attempt to kidnap Pontius Pilate's Michael Palin wife, an act he undertakes mainly to impress a girl. Brian's life runs parallel to that of Jesus, who is glimpsed in the film just once, as he delivers the Beatitudes, and this eventually proves to be bad timing for Brian. Judea is in the grip of Messiah fever, and through a series of coincidences, Brian is mistaken for the Son of God and attracts a throng of followers, rendering his attempts to hide from the Romans futile. The movie was deemed blasphemous by England's Festival of Light, a conservative group determined to clean up British culture, and was banned in some areas of England. In the States, it was criticized by Jewish, Catholic and Protestant authorities, and some theaters that showed it were picketed. Life of Brian suggests that Jesus set the bar rather high for Capricorns everywhere, and some would say Monty Python did the same for artists with this film. Satirizing separatism and extremism by situating a comedy squarely in the Middle East during Jesus' time is no task for the tentative. In an interview on this disc, Gilliam remarks, "You can get laughs any number of ways, but to get laughs at an intelligent level about an important subject, that's good." Asked to speculate about whether Life of Brian would be made today, Jones pauses and then responds, "It ought to be." Thank you for watching.